Mom kicked me out in a storm over my sister's lies. She texted. That was perfect. Not realizing Dad was reading it on the TV. He filed for custody. At the age of 17, I was kicked out in the storm due to a falsehood perpetrated by my sister. My mother yelled, "Get out of my house." I didn't resist. I just walked away. 25 minutes later, she laughed about it in a text, unaware that Dad was reading it on the living room TV. The rain pounded against my bedroom window that October evening, each drop carrying the weight of what was about to happen. I sat cross-legged on my bed, algebra homework scattered across my blanket, blissfully ignorant that my entire world was about to come crashing down. Thunder rumbled across the sky, and I could hear my younger sister, Emily, running down the corridor toward our mother's room. Emily was 15 years old at the time, 2 years younger than me, and she mastered the art of manipulation in ways I didn't realize until it was too late. While I spent my afternoons working at the animal shelter and getting straight A's, she formed relationships based on what others could do for her. Our mother, Blair, had always been gentler with her. Emily understood precisely which buttons to press, which tears to shed, and which stories to tell. The shouting began before I could complete the equation I was working on. Blair's words rang through the walls with a rage I had never heard directed at me before. My gut twisted as I heard my name screamed, each syllable filled with hatred. I set down my pencil, hands quivering, and moved toward the tempest developing within our house. My mother stood in the doorway, her face flushed crimson, her eyes burning with rage, causing me to step back instinctively. Emily lingered behind her, and I caught a fleeting glimpse of something in her countenance. Satisfaction, or triumph. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and tears were still streaming down her cheeks, yet the way she looked at me was calculated. "You want to tell me what you did to your sister?" Blair asked, her voice shaking with wrath. I looked between them, truly perplexed. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been doing homework all afternoon. Don't you dare lie to me." The volume caused me to cringe. "Emily told me everything. How could you do something so cruel to your own sister?" Emily's shoulders heaved with cries that appeared scripted. "I can't believe you're denying it. After what you said to me." "After you." "After what?" My voice was smaller than I expected. "Emily, I haven't even seen you since we got home from school. What are you saying I did?" Blair approached, and I could smell wine on her breath. She had been drinking again, which explained the violent reaction but made the situation far more perilous. When she drank, rationality faded and emotion took over entirely. "She told me that you have been harassing her for weeks, stealing her belongings, spreading stories about her at school, telling her she is useless, and that no one in this family wants her around." Blair shoved his finger at my chest with each accusation. "And today, when she confronted you about it, you told her she should just disappear because everyone would be happier without her." The words struck me like physical blows. None of this was true. Not one syllable. I had never spoken anything like that to Emily, or anybody else. If anything, I've been going out of my way to be supportive, helping her with her homework when she struggled, defending her when kids at school made fun of her braces. "Mom, that's not. I would never say those things. You know me. You know I wouldn't. I know you're standing here lying to my face while your sister is falling apart." Blair's hand flew up, and for a terrifying second, I thought she was going to slap me. She had never raised her hand to me before, but nothing about this situation felt familiar. Gab. The words were soft, yet they were more impactful than her shouting. "What?" My voice was almost a whisper. "Get out of my house." Each phrase felt like a different verdict. I will not have someone who treats family like this under my roof. You want to be cruel? You want to destroy your sister's mental health? You can do it somewhere else. Outside, the storm was intensifying. Rain beat across the windows, while lightning highlighted the lowering sky. It was about 6:30 p.m. The temperature was falling quickly, and I had nowhere to go. "Mom, please. It's pouring outside. Can we just talk about this?" "Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. Emily told me everything, and unlike you, she doesn't lie." Blair crossed her arms, her stance firm. "You have 12 minutes to pack a bag and leave. If you're not gone by then, I'm calling the police and having you removed." I silently begged Emily to confess the truth and put an end to this madness before it escalated. She met my eyes for a brief period, and what I saw there chilled me more than the prospect of being out in the rain. She was not going to say anything. She had orchestrated the entire thing, and she was going to let it unfold just as she had intended. My father, Dean, was away on business. He traveled extensively for his consulting work, often for days or weeks at a time. He wouldn't be home until the weekend, which was 5 days away. I considered calling him, but Blair had already returned to her bedroom and dismissed me completely. I walked through my room in a fog, placing clothes into my school backpack with trembling hands. My phone, charger, toothbrush, the emergency cash I kept in my desk drawer, and the $100 I had saved from babysitting. I grabbed my jacket, knowing it wouldn't be enough protection from the cold outside. Emily entered in my doorway as I was zipping up the bag. "Maybe this will teach you to be nicer," she murmured softly, but clearly enough for me to hear. The tears had dried up, and her face was serene and controlled. "Why?" came out broken. "Why are you doing this?" She shrugged and leaned against the door frame. "You've always been the favorite. Perfect grades, perfect daughter. Everyone always talking about how wonderful you are. Maybe now Mom will see you're not as great as everyone thinks." Before I could react, Blair's voice came from downstairs. "Time's up." I walked past Emily down the stairs and ripped open the front door. My mother stood in the living room archway, arms still crossed, checking to make sure I had left. The disappointment and disgust in her eyes hurt more than anything she had done or said. "I love you, Mom." I tried one more time. "Please don't do this." "Out now." I opened the door, and the wind blew rain into my face. I went onto the porch and heard the door slam behind me, followed by the distinct click of the lock activating. Standing there in the deluge, my backpack already soaked, I had never felt more abandoned in my life. The trek to the bus stop took 17 minutes but felt like hours. Within the first block, my footwear were soaked, making each step uncomfortable. The jacket I grabbed was ineffective against the strong rain. Water flowed down my face, mixed with tears that I couldn't hold back. I had no strategy and no destination. My best friend, Ronan, lived 4 miles away, but I couldn't just show up at her house without an explanation. And how could I explain what had just occurred? My grandmother resided in Florida and was too far away to help. My Aunt Serafina moved to California last year. Everyone I could think of to call would ask questions I couldn't answer. The bus shelter offered little protection from the elements. I sat on the metal bench, brought my knees to my chest, and tried to think. My phone displayed 6:50 p.m. I opened my father's contact list and hovered my fingertips over the call button. He told us during breakfast before leaving that he had meetings all evening. But does this qualify as an emergency? Before I could make a decision, my phone vibrated with an incoming SMS. My mother's name flashed on the screen, and for a brief moment, I believed she had realized her error, that she was calling me back home, and that this nightmare was over. The message caused my blood to run cold. Wow, it was perfect. "Have you seen her face? I've never seen anyone look that sad." She honestly assumed I'd let her explain. Smiley face emoji. Smiley face emoji. Smiley face emoji. My hands became numb. This was not intended for me. The letter was plainly intended for Emily, but Mom sent it to me by mistake, most likely because our names were close to each other on her contacts. A second message arrived immediately. "Delete the wrong individual." Then a third. "Don't tell your father about this." I stared at the screen, rain pouring down around me, as the entire scale of what had happened became painfully clear. It wasn't simply Emily's lie. My mother was in on it. This was something they planned jointly. The phony allegations, the staged fury, threw me into a tempest. It had all been planned precisely to harm me. My telephone rang. Blair's name displayed on the screen. I didn't respond. She called 7 times in fast succession. Each call went to voicemail. Text messages began pouring in. "Answer the phone right now. This is not humorous. Call me back. You are overreacting. It was only a joke. Fine, be dramatic. You can return home once you've finished being ridiculous." I turned off my phone and sat in the dimly lit bus shelter, watching headlights blur through rain-streaked plastic walls. Something basic had broken within me. Not my heart. That would have been cleaner and simpler. This was deeper. A complete breakdown of trust, so that I could physically feel where my family used to be inside my chest and only discovered empty space. A city bus arrived, and the driver stared at me with alarm. "You getting along, honey? You are completely saturated." I had no idea where the bus was headed, but I got on anyway, paying the fare with wet dollar bills from my backpack. The driver, an elderly woman named Carol based on her name tag, frowned at my appearance. "You okay? You want me to call someone for you?" "I am fine," I lied. "I'm just meeting my father at the next station." She didn't seem convinced, but she nodded and shifted the bus into gear. I took a seat toward the back and tried to decide what to do next. The phone messages ran over in my head, each syllable a new injury. It was only a joke. They had tossed me out into the storm as a joke. The bus went past places I barely recognized, and I rode to the end of the line with no clear plan. When Carol announced the final stop, she approached me rather than simply escorting me away. "Sweetheart, I'm not sure what's going on, but I've been driving this route for 18 years and know what a troubled youngster looks like." She gave me a card with a phone number printed in neat handwriting. "That is the Youth Crisis Hotline. They can help you figure out what to do and find a safe place to stay. Kindly call them. I took the card, whispered my thanks, and strolled back into the rain. The storm had not let up at all. If anything, it appeared angrier than before. I found myself roaming aimlessly, muscle memory taking me through places I'd known my entire life but suddenly seemed strange and hostile. Everything familiar has become untrustworthy. Eventually, my roaming led me to the animal shelter, where I volunteer every Saturday. The structure was dark and locked, but the covered entrance offered protection from the elements. I slumped against the wall, backpack alongside me, and eventually let myself fall apart. The tears fell silently, racking my body with uncontrollable sobs. 17 years old, discarded like junk because my sister craved attention and my mother thought it was amusing. Hours passed in a haze of cold and anguish. I must have drifted into a weary half-sleep because I was startled awake by the sound of approaching footsteps. My heart raced with panic until I recognized Mr. Harris, the shelter's night security guard. "Freya, what are you doing here?" His sweet face wrinkled with concern as he noticed my drenched garments and obvious distress. "You, child, are frozen. Come in right now." He unlocked the door and led me inside the shelter's foyer, quickly draping a blanket around my shoulders. The warmth of the structure was nearly painful against my cold flesh. "I'll make you some tea, and then you'll tell me what happened." "Mr. Harris stated firmly yet compassionately. "And don't even think about telling me you're fine because I have 4 daughters of my own, and I know that look." The whole story spelled out while I sat in his office, hands wrapped around a mug of hot tea I couldn't quite stop shaking enough to drink. He listened without interrupting, his gaze darkening with each detail I recounted. "Do you still have the messages your mother sent by accident?" "I turned off my phone hours ago, but when I put it back on, I found 50 missed calls and more than 120 text messages. The majority were from Blair, ranging from angry to threatening to almost panicked. Emily sent me a couple messages telling me I was being immature. There were no apologies, but the original messages remained, providing unambiguous evidence of their actions. "I need you to do something for me," Mr. Harris explained. "Seriously. I need you to allow me to call your father right now. What your mother did was not only cruel, but it was also unlawful. You're a minor, and she can't simply kick you out of your home. Storm or not, joke or not, he's in California for business. He cannot. Then he needs to know what's going on in his home while he's away." Mr. Harris had already reached for his office phone. "What is his number?" My father answered the second ring, his voice sluggish from sleep. It was past 2:30 a.m. in California. "Hello, Mr. Anderson. This is Michael Harris. I am the night security guard at the Riverside Animal Shelter, where your daughter, Freya, volunteers. I have her with me, and there is a situation that you should be aware of immediately." I could hear my father's voice change from sleepy perplexity to acute attentiveness. "Freya, what is wrong? Is she hurt?" Mr. Harris handed me the telephone. "You tell him. He needs to hear it from you." My voice broke with the first word, and everything started rushing out again. Emily's falsehoods, Blair's fury, and being flung into the storm. The text exchanges that indicated the entire situation had been arranged. My father's breathing became heavier with each statement. "I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to tell me the absolute truth," he replied. When I finished, his voice was calm, but I could detect rage beneath. "Did you say or do any of the things Emily accused you of?" "No, none of it. I swear. Dad, I believe you." The conviction in his voice brought tears to my eyes again. "I'm flying on the next available aircraft, and I'll be home by morning. In the meanwhile, I'm phoning your Aunt Serafina, who lives 25 minutes from the shelter. She'll come fetch you, and you'll stay with her until I arrive. Don't go home. Do not respond to any text from your mother or sister. Do you understand?" "Yes." Put Mr. Harris back on the phone. I passed over the phone and listened to my father describe the problem to someone he'd never met, making arrangements to ensure my immediate safety. When Mr. Harris hung up, he smiled slightly. "Your dad sounds like a good man. He's scared for you, but he's handling it. Your aunt is on her way. She should be here in about 35 minutes. Aunt Serafina arrived in 30 minutes, still wearing her pajamas with a raincoat thrown over them. She took one glance at me and drew me into a strong hug, which made me feel safe for the first time in hours. "Oh, sweetie. Oh, my beautiful child." Blair jerked back, hands on my shoulders, eyes flaming. "You are secure now. You are coming home with me, and no one will hurt you again." Her home was cozy and quiet. She led me to the guest room, gave me dry clothes that were too big but incredibly soft, and sat with me as I attempted to eat the soup she had heated up. I could not take more than a few nibbles. "Try to get some rest," she said, pulling blankets around me like a young child. "Your father will be here soon, and then we'll figure out what happens next. I slept fitfully, nightmares blending with memories until I couldn't tell them apart. When I awoke, the bleak morning light streamed through unfamiliar curtains. My father's deep rumble and Serafina's gentler answers echoed below. I found them in the kitchen. My father looked like he had aged 5 years overnight, his eyes red-rimmed and weary. When he saw me, he took 3 strides across the room and embraced me. He mumbled, "I'm so sorry," into my hair. "I'm sorry I wasn't there, that I didn't see what was going on, and that you had to go through it alone." We sat at Serafina's kitchen table, and I showed him the text messages. I saw his jaw tighten as he read the evidence of Blair and Emily's actions, the casual brutality reflected in those laughing emoji. "This ends now," he remarked gently. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. What your mother did constitutes child endangerment and neglect. Those text messages prove premeditation, which makes it worse." "What does that mean?" I inquired. "It means we're documenting everything. It means I'm filing for emergency custody of you. It means your mother is going to face consequences for what she's done." He stared at me with a soft and determined expression. "And it means you get to decide how much contact you want with her and Emily going forward. If the answer is none, I will support that completely." We drove to the residence later that morning. My father had called ahead to let Blair know that he was coming to collect my possessions and that I would no longer be residing there. She attempted to disagree, arguing that I was being overdramatic about a trivial prank, but he cut her off. "We'll discuss the legality of your harmless prank with a lawyer I've retained," he said before hanging up. Blair and Emily were in the living room when we arrived. My mother's face was splotchy from sobbing, and her hair was uncombed. Emily sat on the couch, arms crossed, with an attitude that said she was the wrong person in this scenario. "Dean, thank goodness." Blair approached him. "Maybe you can talk some sense into your daughter. She's completely overreacted to a joke and now she's stopped talking." My father's voice was icy. "Right now, before you say something else that my lawyer will be very interested to hear." Blair's mouth jerked shut. She looked between us, as if she realized for the first time that excuses and explanations would not be enough to get through this. "Freya is going to pack her things, and then we're leaving," Dad said. "You and I will communicate through attorneys from this point forward regarding custody arrangements and the legal consequences of your actions." "Legal consequences?" Blair asked, raising his voice. "It was a joke. We were going to let her back in after an hour. Let her see that we pranked her. She wasn't supposed to run off and make this huge dramatic thing. You threw a 17-year-old child out of her home during a severe thunderstorm based on fabricated accusations, then sent text messages laughing about her distress." My father's control was remarkable. His rage was restrained but obviously visible. "That's not a prank. That's child abuse. And those text messages are evidence of premeditation." I'd never seen my mother look this pale. "You can't be serious. You're going to involve lawyers over this? You involved the police in your threats to call them if Freya didn't leave fast enough," he said. "You made this legal the moment you did that." I left them arguing in the living area and went to my room. Looking around at the room I'd been in for 17 years, all I could think about was how much I wanted to get out of there. I packed systematically: clothes, books, the images I treasured, my laptop, and the jewelry box my grandma gave me. Everything that mattered fit into 2 suitcases and a couple of cartons. As I stuffed clothing into my luggage, my hands came across the sweater Blair had given me for Christmas last year. She had made a big deal about choosing it out, stating she had spent weeks looking for the ideal hue. I held it for a bit before dropping it on the floor. "She may keep the gifts." The walls were adorned with images and trophies from track meetings, honor roll certificates, and volunteer recognition awards, all proof of a life I'd worked hard to create. None of this mattered when Emily decided she wanted to bring me down. I took down the images that only showed myself and my father, leaving the family photos hung. Those belonged to a version of us that no longer existed. My phone was continually buzzing in my pocket.